Hey everyone, things are heating up here at Priority Bicycles because today we're going to build your new Priority Sauce.
Before we get started, it's important to know that we always recommend that your bicycle be professionally assembled. Or if you choose to follow this video and do home assembly, we recommend that a professional bicycle mechanic safety check your bicycle before riding. Now let's get started.
Some household tools you're going to need to assemble your bicycle are a box cutter, scissors, and a Phillips head screwdriver. Now, before we get started, let's take a photo of the label on our box. On the side of our box, we'll see our label with all of our information of our bike, the model, the color, the gearing, and also, very important, the serial number down here. So we're going to take a photo of that and save it for the future. Using your serial number, register the bike with us using the link in the description. Now let's unbox your bike. I like to use a pair of scissors to cut these plastic straps here. Then go in with the box cutter to open it up. Inside your bicycle box, we'll of course find our bicycle and two items: your seat and your seat post, and your small parts box. Now let's open up your small parts box. Now in here, we're going to find our pedals, rear reflector, and your owner's manual and tools. The tools that you'll be getting are a 15mm wrench for your wheels, a 6, 5, and 4mm Allen key for the assembly, and you'll also be getting these two bolts here for your brake, along with this little clip here for your brake hose. Before we continue with our assembly, it's important that we review all of our manuals here. And if you have any questions, please contact us. All right, now let's get to the fun part. We're going to start to unpack our bike. We're going to want to leave our fork last because that's going to involve a few extra steps. Great, now that we have most of our packaging material removed off the bike, let's focus on the fork and the front end. With the fork, let's first turn it 180 degrees, like so. Then pick up the front end to remove the box underneath. And using your 15mm wrench, we're going to remove this dropout protector here. Set the bike back down, and we're going to use our diagonal cutter to cut the zip ties off and the rest of the packing material. Now let's remove the packaging material off of your handlebars. With the packing material now removed, we're going to install the handlebars onto the steering column. Using a 5mm Allen key, we're going to remove the top cap here and then slide a handlebar onto the steerer. When doing so, make sure that this cable is not wrapped behind the head tube, but in front, like so. Now, slide the handlebar. The handlebar should be facing upward, like so, and you'll know you have the right direction when you can see 174 Hudson facing upward. Now slide down the handlebar and install your top cap. You don't need to tighten this too much, just get it nice and snug. Okay. Next, let's install our front brake caliper using the bolts that came in our small parts box. Let's get the brake into position. Following the front brake caliper, we're going to follow the hose so that is in front of the rear brake hose, like so. And then it should wrap around the left side, like this. And we can now bolt it in position using our 5mm Allen key. Do the same on the bottom. No need to lock this down, as we'll do an adjustment later on. Now using your hose clip, we're going to secure the hose onto the fork. Now let's get the wheel onto the bike. Loosen both bolts on the axle, then pick up the front end of the bike and guide the dropouts of the fork onto the axle and the rotor into the caliper. From here, we can now tighten by hand both axle nuts. Then, while applying downward pressure on the stem, we're going to tighten both bolts. You want to tighten these bolts until the tool leaves an impression on your hand. And if you have a torque wrench, you'll want to torque it down to 35 Newton meters. For the rest of the assembly, let's use our kickstand to stabilize the bike. Now let's get our seat installed onto the bike. It's important to know when installing your seat post that it never passes the minimum insertion. This marking needs to be inside of your frame at all times. Now grab your 5mm Allen key to loosen the seat post clamp and slide the seat post into the frame. When sizing up the bike, you want that saddle to be just about where your hip bone is. Now, use your 5mm Allen key to tighten the bolt. You want to tighten the seat post until the tool leaves an impression in your hand. Now let's get our pedals installed onto the bike. We're going to first cut open the packaging. To get both pedals out. It's important to note that there is a right and a left side to your pedals. You'll see a sticker indicating which side goes where. R for right side and L for the left side. Let's first install our right pedal. If you have some grease, it'd be best to install it onto your pedals at this point. We're going to use our 15mm wrench and use that to install our pedals. Let's first do this by hand. We're going to tighten the pedal towards the right or clockwise. Once it becomes hard to spin by hand, we're going to use our 15mm wrench to tighten it down. Now we're going to tighten down the pedal by putting our left hand on the rear wheel, and your crank should be facing forward with the tool also facing forward. Then you're going to push down with both hands downward. Okay. Now you should have your pedals tightened down to just about 40 Newton meters. Now let's install our left pedal onto the left crank arm. Again, if we have some grease, let's use that onto the threads. Okay. Now the left pedal will be turning towards the left or counterclockwise to tighten on. Okay. Do this by hand first, and once it starts getting a little rough, we're going to use our tool. So just like we did with the right pedal to tighten it down, we'll be doing the same with the left. Using your right hand now, hold onto the rear wheel, and your left hand with your tool onto the pedal. We're going to push down with our left hand and pull out with the right hand until the tool leaves an impression on our palm. You should have the pedals torqued down to about 40 Newton meters. Great, now that our bike is pretty much fully assembled, let's just go through a few things. Let's start off with our stem handlebar combination and make sure that it is aligned with the front wheel. We'll also want to make sure that the headset is properly adjusted and that there is no play in the steering column. If everything's good to go, we'll use our 5mm Allen key and we're going to tighten these two bolts here. Make sure to alternate between each bolt so they tighten down evenly. If you have a torque wrench, you'll want to get these torqued down to about 8 Newton meters. Now let's do our front brake adjustment. When adjusting your brake caliper, just ensure that the pad spacing is even on both sides of the rotor. Once you get this, make sure to lock down the caliper down to 8 Newton meters, or until the tool leaves an impression on your hand. For safety, we do recommend that you use your reflectors. Let's get the back one on first. Inside this small bag, you will find your rear reflector and a screw to lock it down. And when you install the reflector, you want it so that it is pointing straight back and as high up as possible, like so. And for your front reflector, it's already installed on the bike. All you'll need to do is point it forward, center it, and lock it down. After ensuring that every bolt is nice and tight on your bike, Let's move on to inflating our tires. You'll find the correct PSI for your tires on the sidewall. This particular tire takes 45 PSI. To inflate them, we'll want to remove this press the valve cap first, then open up the press the valve and connect your pump to it. Now let's inflate your front tire as well. When you're done, make sure to close the press the valve and install the cap. Congratulations, your Priority Sauce bike is now fully assembled. Before going on your first ride, we do recommend having the bike checked over by a professional mechanic. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Our information is at the bottom of the screen.